Good morning. I'm Sara Flounders. I'll be chairing this session, but before I even say anything, I have an announcement to make. We're functioning in a period when social media algorithms set by their corporate owners decide what can be said, what news can be covered, what names and organizations can be discussed, and who will be banned, doxxed, blocked, or closed down. Now, this is a meeting that we have pursued with great determination, and we are determined to not be shut down. We have messages sent to us by resistance organizations in Palestine, in Lebanon, and in Yemen. And we are proud to share these messages and the global messages of solidarity with the heroic Palestinian struggle. We agree wholeheartedly that this is a crime of genocide, as stated in the suit brought by South Africa to the International Court of Justice. So every person who's listened to this suit has a moral obligation to act. So we assert that we have a political, a legal, and a moral right to hear, to discuss, to meet with those resistance forces who are right now, as we meet, under US-supplied Israeli bombs. So for anyone, this is really a message to anyone who's listening to us via Zoom and to everyone in the hall today. This program is being restreamed on YouTube, on Facebook, on X, formerly Twitter, on Instagram. We also have a separate stream, a new Workers' World channel on Telegram. So if the program is suddenly blocked, for those of you on Zoom, just switch to Telegram, Workers' World Party channel. It'll just take a minute. While I mention Telegram, hope anyone that's on Telegram also follows the Resistance News Network for really the coverage of the Palestinian struggle as it's unfolding. And after today's program will be available on several online platforms. But it's important, as people meet today, that always there is a way of being heard and not being blocked. That's a real political contribution. We are standing complete solidarity in our defense of the Palestinian resistance and the right to resist. So, that being said, let me just get to my opening comments of welcome to this International Assembly Against Imperialism and in solidarity with the Palestinian resistance. We seek in today's program to revive the lessons of Lenin on the centrality of welding together the workers' struggle and the struggle of the colonized people of the global South, and still colonized by imperialism today. And we begin with a recognition that we're meeting on the homeland of the Lenape Nation, who were violently displaced as a result of US settler colonialism. We're meeting at a dangerous moment. US threats and bombs are expanding. This war is not ending. It instead reaches the whole region. US imperialism is determined to continue its looting. Solidarity with Palestinian resistance is now a global upsurge, an exploding movement, a challenge to corporate power, and no attempt to block it has succeeded. Isn't that incredible? This is a dying capitalist system, and this resistance means life itself is possible. It's resistance that always changes the equation of power. And the world today has changed. The balance has shifted. The old order is collapsing. US stranglehold is slipping. Its global hegemony, its ability to assert that US power alone is a decision maker, is being challenged by a desperate revolutionary people who've been kept totally imprisoned. The audacity of the coordinated Palestinian resistance, which began with a surprise operation on October 7th, was not only a shock to the Zionist military machine, it sent shockwaves through the U.S. empire. Both Israel and the U.S. rulers are now relying on brute force. But brute force can't reverse this political blow. U.S. supplied weapons for massive destruction only clarifies the U.S. role and further arouses the hatred of millions of people across the whole planet. The Israeli myth of invincibility will never recover from this blow. That's fact. U.S. imperialism is being driven out of Western Asia. Not a moment too soon. The relentless bombing of Gaza is a sign of the Zionist desperation, its wild revenge. And so are the raids and mass kidnappings in the West Bank, the bombings in Lebanon. And in response, Yemen has taken the boldest of action. No ships to Israeli ports while Israel bombs Gaza. What a statement that is. Now, the Zionists claim this is an existential crisis. You know, that's true. That is true. The continued existence of this Zionist colonial outpost is at stake. Israel is a strategic partner, crucial to the U.S. regional security. And even as the U.S. occupation in Iraq unraveled, its plans to overthrow the Syrian government failed, the U.S. was kicked out of Afghanistan. The U.S.-NATO war in Ukraine failed to turn the Russian ruble into rubble, as Biden promised, and now it's running short of weapons and funding. So there's a lot happening in the world today, and none of it's good for U.S. imperialism. Decades of U.S. sanctions on countries around the world, 40 countries, a third of the population of the world is under devastating U.S. sanctions, a third of the world. U.S. sanctions made it acceptable to starve down whole populations. They publicized it to create artificial famines, to withhold medicine, to cut off electricity and fuel, to create hyperinflation. It was all acceptable, and the U.S. publicized it, whether it was Korea or Venezuela, from one side of the world to the other. But now, countries of the global south are finding new trade and financial mechanisms, and they are refusing to be threatened. Now, my own past visits to Gaza, I saw the impact of years of U.S.-Israeli sanctions. Zionist bombings and destruction again and again and again, long before October 7th. But now the mobilization of millions of people around the world on a daily basis is a threat to the capitalist political order. The sheer size and scale and speed with which huge events have come together, massive demonstrations, this is a new day. Here in the U.S., workers in the millions have marched and acted and shut down, from schools to bridges, all acting in solidarity with Palestine. And that act of solidarity is unprecedented. It really is an inspiration. Solidarity is the most necessary ingredient in the class struggle. Actually, solidarity is class consciousness. The U.S. ruling class rules by division, racism, elitism, divide and conquer on a world scale. And there are many, many struggles and issues and forms of oppression that are deliberately calculated to divide the working class nationally and internationally. The union movement here hasn't challenged this for decades. The two imperialist parties, the Democrats and Republicans, are united on imperialist war, and they're always the strongest supporters of Zionism because it's intended to divide the working class, Western Asia. But the Palestinian resistance has united the oppressed and working people globally. Lenin, as a revolutionary leader of the first worker state, pulled the working class movement that had been so centered in the West, in Europe, in the US, to shift gears, to recognize, to unite with, to defend the oppressed and colonized global South of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, who were challenging imperialist domination. That is his legacy. That's what we celebrate today. Workers and oppressed of the world unite, as you see right here on the front of this podium. Workers and oppressed of the world unite. It's become a unifying slogan. It still is today. And from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.